Where? Okay. Okay. Cool. So I made this video. I'm doing this live stream on how to turn around your life in 90 days because I just want to help people. A lot of people are going through a tough time right now. So this is going to be for anyone who's going through any hardships, doing some soul searching, and yeah, I'm gonna share with you how I was able to get out of a rut. So if you're looking to here, let me just I have notes here as well. So okay. So in this session, I'll talk to you about like my framework on how to get out of a rut. Here, ooh, let me just make sure I have my notes up. Sorry for the I'm using my phone for the first time, so that's why. So we'll talk about how to set goals, thinking about how to figure out and create better daily habits. Talk about mastering your mindset, and just accountability, how to go about finding and building your support system. All right, so let's get right into it. Cool. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post in the comments below. I'm trying to manage it on the laptop as well. So let's get right into it. So about 7 months ago, no, exactly 6 months ago, I left the corporate job to pursue my passions, to do more things that filled my cup. So on that, I started off with a 16-day solo road trip, traveling to Canada, Vermont, Boston, all over, and I was able to hang out and spend quality time and do things that ultimately, I think what triggered that was I had friends that passed away at an early age. So I didn't want to have any regrets. So I ended up, oh, let me block myself so I'm not seeing myself. So I ended up doing this thing called the 1,000 Random Strangers journey, where I was able to go up to 1,000 random strangers, and I'll share a little bit more about my takeaways from that. But so in this LinkedIn Live, you'll learn a little bit more on like just how to think about life. You know, if you're soul searching, you're not really sure what you want to do. You'll probably get some value from this, and you know, figuring out a little bit more about yourself and what makes you tick. So the first framework that I want to talk about is figuring out your ikigai. So ikigai is a combination of what you're good at, what the market is willing to pay you for, and what you're passionate about. I think many of us were very focused on what we're passionate about and what we're good at, but it's also important to figure out what the market is willing to pay you for, right? Because you could be good at certain things like working at a nonprofit and certain skills, but if you're not going to get paid for it, then I mean, it depends on what your goals are, but I do think it's important to focus on what you're good at and what the market's willing to pay you for as well, right? And I learned that the hard way because I'm not gonna lie, the last 6 months have been very challenging, but I learned a lot about myself. You know, I feel like when you go through a rut, you know, I'll just speak about myself. Like when I was going through a rut, you know, I didn't feel like I was like watching TV. I was burning out. And what I realized is like I never really took the time to like take a rest because all of my vacations days were spent doing coaching programs, doing Landmark, Next Level, Tony Robbins, traveling to all these conferences, which is great. But even that, like you're doing work, right? You're working on the workbooks, you're like networking, you're always doing a lot of different things. So I would say the first step there, if I was going through a rut, the first thing I would do is just journal and figure out like what it is in life that you want, right? Do I want to make more money? Do I want to publish a book? Do I want to start a YouTube channel? Right. And I meet so many people that say, like, oh, I would love to start a YouTube channel one day. It's like, hey, instead of just talking about it, do something about it. And if you don't like it and if you find it hard, you'll learn a lot. You'll become a better person because of it. You know, when I first started making content, it was super uncomfortable. Like even doing this is uncomfortable, right? But I was like, you know what? I made a vow to myself. I'm going to do LinkedIn Lives every month, every week. And so far I've been pretty consistent. I've done 10 LinkedIn Lives in the last 10 weeks. So, you know, as you go outside your comfort zone, you'll learn and you'll grow and you'll become a better person because of it. So the key is to just keep challenging yourself and keep doing things. that make you happy. So in the beginning, when you're in a rut, just figure out what are the things that make you happy. Is it hanging out with friends? Is it reading a book? And don't be so hard on yourself. When I was watching the last yesterday, I worked about like 6 hours, and I binge watched this show called Eight. And I was like, older Davidson would be so guilty, would be like, oh, I shouldn't be watching TV. Like, what am I doing with my life? But at the end of the day, it's okay to take a rest. It's okay if you're burning out, if you're burning the midnight oil. Sometimes you just need to like relax and just turn off, and just like turn off your phone, stop going on social media, and just do your thing. Some people, that's for me, that's walking the park, that's going calling up a friend sometimes. But I do think it's helpful for you to be able to reflect and figure out what are the things that I enjoy most in life, right? So if I was just looking, like if I'm in a rut, the first thing I tend to do is isolate. I think isolating in the beginning is healthy like just as you try to figure things out, but too much isolation, I would argue, is not good for you, right? So I'm sure you guys could come up with 5 people that you want to call when things are rough and you're feeling a bit of a rut. So I would definitely reach out to my friends and people who, lift me up, right? So when I'm in a bit of a rut, I'll call Garrett, or I'll call Edwin and Vivian. And there's certain people in life that, no matter what, they see you for who you are. So that's the first step, right? Your first 30 days, call your friends. Sometimes you just need a reminder of who you are. I think the next step is to figure out why you feel this way. Like, why do you feel so empty? For me, I was always soul searching. I was always looking for something. And I realized that it's because I wasn't true to myself and I wasn't able to set boundaries. So I let people take advantage of my kindness. So the first step is set boundaries, figure out what is draining your energy, and once you figure that out, you'll be able to have self-awareness on the things that make you happy. So that does take a bit of journaling, a bit of reflection, and honestly, a bit of soul searching. So don't be afraid to take 90 days to take care of yourself. At the end of the day, you'll thank yourself long term for it. So first 30 days, the framework that I would use is, the first step is figure out what are your blind spots, like what is making you unhappy. So if I was to look back at my life, and you do this exercise yourself, right? So just take out a journal, write down what are the things that make you happy, what are the things that make you sad. So in my case, being with people, go to networking events. I took a higher paying job that was a remote job, and I realized that I needed to create communities. I needed to have structures to fill my in-person bucket as well, especially if you're an extrovert. If you're an introvert, honor yourself, right? If you're being spent and you're doing things on the weekends that you don't want to do, just say no, and it's okay. Your friends that just, you don't have to always give an explanation, but your friends that know you know that, you need these things to survive. So don't be afraid to, and if it's someone you're really close to, just let them know, like, hey, I'm going through a tough time right now. I just need time to just like reflect. And so, if you don't hear from me, and then give yourself a timeline, right? So if you're wallowing in pity, self-pity, and misery for more than 90 days, I would say, hey, it's time to move on. And easier said than done, right? I would definitely focus a lot of my energy on just doing things that make me happy. So is it going to the park? Is it walking around Manhattan, the High Line for me, biking, being in nature? When you deprive yourself of the things that make you happy because you want to sacrifice for your family or whatever it is, yeah, like long term, like one, it's not sustainable. So you just have to be able to just be true to yourself and honor yourself. But two, notice the things that don't make you happy, right? Is it being on Zoom for 8 hours a day? If that doesn't make you happy, then try to sprinkle in some more in person, right? have lunch with a friend. If it's meeting in person, yes, like even if you have to drive half an hour or an hour, it's better to focus on quality over quantity. Like so much of my life, I did so many Zoom calls, but my one in-person meeting that took me as long as 3 Zoom calls was probably more effective and really filled my cup. And I was able to build a deeper relationship with that person in general. So make sure you do that. So the next session or the next portion is about setting goals, right? How do I set goals that are more aligned with my values? Well, think back to the times when you were the happiest, right? So if I was to look back at, the sales kickoff when I was in Vegas with 6,000 people, the Northeast Conference, going to the holiday events at Shrine and all these different events, the common theme for me was being surrounded by a lot of people and being around a common mission, like a bigger goal other than yourself. If you notice that you're thinking about yourself so much and you're just stuck in like you just thinking about me, 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 I think it's important to focus on others, right? So there's a triangle where one end of the spectrum is you slash like your ego. So a self, ego, whatever you want to call it. The other third of the triangle is others, and then the other third is spirituality. So you can call it universe, God, whatever your version of that. Ideally, you want to have a balance of all three. If you're so focused on you, whether that's like going to the gym all the time or whatever it is, right? It You tend to go down like this trap of it's like, oh, it's all about me. Life is so hard. If you're too focused on others, you might burn out. You might, if you're giving yourself too much. If you're really spiritual, but you're not really focusing on yourself, you might gain a lot of weight, or you might, you might like not be as well versed in your nutrition and stuff like that. So I think for me, most of my life, I've been way too much others focused, and I realized like that was my downfall. So just see where you are on the triangle, and then you'll be able to figure out. And then what are actions I can take to help me get closer towards like an equal balance of all three. So in my case, the spirituality piece is missing. So what has helped with that is I mean, even strangely, even doing content like this helps me be more spiritually connected because I feel like I'm adding value to the universe and things like that. So the next step in figuring out your goals and your passions is just close your eyes and then reflect on, okay, what are the things that I'm most proud of today, and do more of those things, right? So if I was to close my eyes, I'm like, oh man, like that coaching conversation with my client, um, William was really, or Will was really good. Like it felt really good for him to text me or for him to acknowledge me, like, hey, like thank you so much for helping me out. So it's like, okay, seems like coaching is a common theme. Mentorship is a common theme. If I look back at my relationships with like Ivana or Ryan or Emily and all these, Kendall, all these amazing people I've met throughout the years, it's like, wow, like that was really sourcing. Like do more of that, right? So just reflect back on the things. And if you can't find something that's work related, it could also be like outside of work, right? When I was at a landmark program or the Summit of Greatness in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, it's like, oh, okay, so travel was a common theme. When I was in the waterfall in Fiji, it's like, okay, so exploration was another theme. Do more of those, do more of those things, right? So the next thing is figuring out what routines and what daily habits be to so that you can really have self-awareness around the things that bring you joy and the things that. So for me, for instance, this morning I was able to stretch a little bit. I was able to use the foam roller. I was able to do some meditation with Boho Beautiful, and I was able to live stream. Right, so those habits put me in a good mood because the live stream have me. This is through YouTube. Was able to hold me accountable. Where it's like, all right, I'm not going to slack off on my abs today, and doing all those things like meditation helps me to get into a good set, more spiritually connected to people, so that's important. So yeah, so write down all the habits that have, and everyone is different, right? Some people might be like making a smoothie, taking a walk around the block. Just make sure you journal and reflect on the things that bring you joy. So the next step is to master your mindset, right? What is the challenge? What is the setback? And why do I feel this like funk? Like what happened exactly? So for many people that I work with, it's I just got laid off from a job, or I felt like I spent so much time interviewing for this job, and like BetterUp, for instance. Like maybe I interviewed for BetterUp for an enterprise account executive role and I didn't get the role. It's like, oh my God, like, and then you like having self-awareness, it's like, what about that was so triggering? It's like, oh, okay, I think what's going on is I made it mean that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Man, and then I interviewed for 10 different jobs in the last like 30 days and I got rejected from all of them. I keep making it to the last round and I didn't get it. So reflecting on the setbacks and the things that, and then what's more important is what is the meaning you've made out of this setback? So let's use the BetterUp account executive, enterprise account executive role as an example. So it's like, okay, I didn't get it. I made it to the last round, and then the VP of sales said that I didn't have enough business acumen to close like really big, like enterprise deals, right? So having that self-awareness is important because when we realize that, we can be able to rewire our brain and choose a different narrative, right? So it's like, okay, what what is the new story around me failing, in this particular place? What is the story? Was it in failure? No. Okay, I learned, okay, I need to have more concrete numbers, know my numbers, and be able to practice maybe digging into a 10K and be able to describe that a little bit further, right? There's always room for growth, and there's always room for feedback. So the news story that after I rewired my brain, it's like, okay, I'm trying the best I can. I am bold enough and courageous enough to apply for jobs that are a stretch for me, right? So this is a much more empowering story versus, oh, I failed and that's why I didn't I didn't get the role, right? So with everything, you're always able to rewire your brain. Having a coach helps. Obviously, I didn't do this overnight, but just being able to hire a coach, that's why I'm passionate about this world. I was able to rewire my brain, and this is through the help of working it out with a coach, right? So the next stage is to work on accountability. How do I stay accountable to my goals? Like, how do I stay consistent? Well, having a coach helps, obviously. Um, Being able to share with your friends, share publicly, right? So let's say I'm like, hey guys, this year I'm gonna do 20 more live streams between now and December 31st. Well, I just told you guys all this, so now I'm more likely to do it because humans, we all want to be accepted. We're all social creatures. So the more people you tell about these things, the better that'll be for you in actually achieving it. But also you want to be careful who you tell, right? So let's say, how there's some friends that have like that jealousy energy, and then some people that just always are rooting for you, right? Like with Edwin, like I never have to feel jealous because he's always gonna have my back. So those are the people you want to be on the phone with and call and just share. Being part of a men's group has helped. That's partially why I created the men's group and a lot of the masterminds and things that I'm up to. And yeah, so those are the things I would do to be unstuck. So to bottom line it, to how to turn your life around in 90 days, journal on why that is, have self-awareness. Was it because I lost a job? Was it because I didn't feel I was good enough because I felt like I bombed this interview? What is the story I made about this moment? How to rewire going from I'm a failure to, hey, I'm courageous for going for jobs that are much higher salary, much higher opportunities. Like I should be proud of myself. And then I could like pat myself on the back instead of being my own worst critic. So that's one. Being able to set goals, public accountability is really important. So just sharing openly about your goals. The more people know about it, the more you're putting it into the universe, the more likely it's going to happen. And also be able to create a vision board as well. I think that's important. Um, so let me show you here. I'm gonna bring this. I'll do a little bit of show you a little bit. So this is important because we are we are visual creatures in general, right? So let's say my goal is to spend a lot more quality time with my wife. So that was us eating a cake at our home. This is two of my buddies in CrossFit. So let's say my goal, and then this is me visiting. So all of these are intentional visualizations because it's like, okay, I want to spend more quality time with my family. I want to be able to travel more and build community in LA, right? Having deep relationships with my doorman, getting together, and then just appreciating the onboarding process, like at TriNet, and being able to create and facilitate those types of environments. During our 3-year anniversary, being in Montauk, how beautiful that moment was, and how precious I thought she was, and still is. This is self-love, like going on a date with myself and being okay with that, right? So all of these are made intentionally because like these are things that I want to work on, right? So the more you display things that you want to work on, like for instance, this, like being able to have more peaceful memories and things like that, right? As I and I display a lot of these because it's like, okay, how can I use creative visualization to continue to grow to work on myself and to be better at accomplishing my goals and things like this? How can I be more spiritual and meditate, right? Redefining Masculinity, a book that I wrote. How can I move men forward to be able to process our feelings? How can I travel the world a lot more? This is in regards to my podcast. Like, how do I get to 1,000 podcast episodes? Like a lot of the men or a lot of the podcasters that I listen to, more specifically, Rich Roll, Tim Ferriss, Lewis Howes. And then this is a reminder of life is short, and never take life for granted, and to be able to process emotionally, right? Like Robin Williams' suicide has an impact on me. I thought this was hilarious. I had a couple of friends gift me this book, which is amazing because like, they think of me as a $1 trillion coach. So the journaling guide that we put together, that we created, right? How to live longer, being acquired by acquisition.com one day, right? All of these are intentional so that I can working on my YouTube channel, like accomplishment coaching. So I hope this has been helpful for you all. Just wanted to share this with you all. It's truly a privilege to be able to serve. So I'll be doing many more of these live sessions. Let me know if you found it to be helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments. And yeah, thank you for joining. Cheers.